Welcome back, everybody, to the COVID Chronicles, our way of navigating through this mess. Today, we're going to be brainstorming, and I'm going to give you some ideas for the future of the digital church. My name is Matthew, and I pastor the Seventh-day Adventist Church here in Peoria, Illinois. Now, this channel is all about exploring, explaining, and extending Adventism into the digital world. Now, this video right here is a sequel to the last video where we talked about how fewer and fewer people are attending church these days. Remember this chart? Yeah. We've been on a slide for the past 10 years, and COVID is like adding grease to the slide. Greasing the slide is still a thing, right? That makes sense? Yeah? Anyways, hold that thought. Now, as COVID is retreating for the moment, more and more churches, including ours here in Peoria, are reopening. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, please. And as a church leader, the question you're going to be wrestling with sooner or later is whether or not you should continue to live stream the way that you have been doing it. In the end, I think you're going to see two types of churches coming out of COVID. Those who continue to use these new digital skills that they learned and all this equipment and all that. And those who are happy to get back to normal and leave all of that devil-infested technology behind them. Well, which one do you want your church to be? Think about it. If people are attending church less and less, you'd be cutting off your own legs by abandoning your live stream, right? Now, I don't believe live streaming is the silver bullet that will cause people to start coming back to church. I think we have to start thinking in terms of creating digital churches. That is, digital spaces where your local church exists. Now, the great thing is that you can build out this digital church concept kind of however you want. I've seen a church build a virtual reality model of their church, and so people put on their goggles and find the seat, and then you can see this preacher on the stage. They're walking around. They have a big screen behind them where they're showing their slides, and a friend of mine attended one of these and said it was awesome. But, I mean, how many of us can design something like that? You could have a church in Minecraft or do something on Clubhouse if you can scrape together an invite to Clubhouse, or you can create a Discord channel or a Facebook group or get on Instagram Live. And the point isn't to do all of this stuff. That can be overwhelming. But to strategically use some of these services to create a space where community can happen online. And you want to involve as many church members as you can because you want your digital members to get to know and hang out with your local members. Now, maybe one of your members is handy with IGTV and she does a cooking video once a week. We're going to talk about this again in just a moment. Maybe a few of your members are gamers. They show up on Twitch on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The point is to create these spaces where people can connect with your church members outside of your live stream worship thing that you do, where you are building friendships and your digital members feel like they truly belong to a church. Maybe one of these digital members wants to get baptized, but they live in California and you're in a church in Wyoming. No big deal. Call up a local Adventist church in California and say, hey, I got a guy who wants to be baptized. Can you do it? You will do it. Then have your church zoom into the baptism and celebrate along with this person. Okay, now you have a member of your church who doesn't live in your state. No big deal. You can add them to your church board if you want, or you can create a totally different administrative structure online. Your digital members could serve as mods in the community, help plan things, and spread word about what your church is doing in the digital space. Really, the sky is the limit. It is so exciting because we can do this however we want, all right? Now, as you think about the right ways to plant a digital church, I think there are a few things you can start doing right now. First up, make your digital audience a primary audience. Make sure your pastor or your teachers or elders or whoever, make sure that they acknowledge the people who are watching online. Let's say somebody named Joe Smith left a comment on Facebook wishing everyone a happy Sabbath for the past 2 weeks. So, ask your pastor to begin with the live stream with something like, hey, welcome everyone, glad that you're joining us, and a very happy Sabbath to Joe Smith out there who's been joining us for the past couple of weeks. Just keep it simple. The goal is to let the people online know that the pastor or elder or whoever sees them, that they are noticed, that those online viewers matter to this church, that they are considered as visitors, as if they were in the local church themselves. Now, this involves a mental shift because you're not live streaming so people out there can see what we're doing in here. No, we need to start thinking of the online audience as in here as well. And because they're in here with us, we want them to have quality audio and video. We want to acknowledge them and involve them as if they're sitting among us. Now, this leads me to my second point. Understand that your digital church will work differently than your local church. We've had people greet us in our live stream from Australia and Spain and all over the world, but they don't always stick around for more than a week or two. It's important to keep in mind that not all of these people will stick around forever. So don't be discouraged when people come and go. Your local church might have a major evangelistic series every 1 or 2 or 3 years because that traditionally has meant bombarding your neighborhoods with flyers. And well, if you do it too much, you're going to burn everyone out. But if you've got a digital community and you want to invite people to accept the gospel of Jesus, you might do something twice a year or even once a quarter because there's probably going to be a lot of turnover there, right? Online relationships have a different rhythm than in-person relationships, and we have to be mindful of that as we build these online communities. Third, interact with your audience. Almost all worship live streams ignore the viewers online. Some of the bigger churches have some pretty sweet gear, but they use it to put on a TV-style production. Look, TV is not an interactive platform. We're on the internet, guys. At our church, we begin with a Kahoot quiz that people can play from home. We put people's comments and questions on the screen, and our teachers and preachers can respond to those comments as they come in. We want the people who are watching online to feel heard in real time. There's a live streaming service that promises super stable streams because it delays your stream by a couple of minutes. So the upside here is that if your internet cuts out for a moment, you'd keep streaming with no problem. Well, that's great, like really great, unless you want to be interacting with people in real time and you don't want your live stream to be 2 minutes delayed, right? Again, this is why our church puts the YouTube and Facebook comments on the screen for the Sabbath school teacher to see. Whether you step up to the mic in our church building or you type a comment on YouTube, you are a part of our class. And we are looking for ways to involve the viewer in the life of our church so that they can feel like they're a part of what's going on. Fourth point, connect. I was speaking at an event once that was being live streamed over Facebook, and the organizers had a guy on Facebook whose job it was to summarize the points the speakers were making every few minutes. And this was brilliant because it meant that even if someone was, say, 10 minutes late to Sabbath school lesson or to the sermon or whatever, they could just scroll up on the comments and get the major points that the teacher was making. Boom, now they're on the same page. They're caught up, right? They didn't miss anything. Now, what were they doing? They were connecting the online audience to the speaker. So your connector should take note. If they see Joe Blow for the second straight week, they can say, "Hey, Joe, great to see you again." Don't leave it all up to the pastor or someone else to acknowledge the people who are watching online. For instance, while somebody is getting ready to pray at the front of your church, have your connector say, "Hey guys, what can we pray about for you today?" or something. And then offer to pray with folks, maybe privately in a message. And then the connector can take those prayer requests they found online, hand them to a church elder or somebody next week and say, "Hey, make sure these are on our prayer list next week." Got it. Fifth, communicate. Okay, so you've got people watching your online worship. Now you need to do something with them. You can start an email list using MailChimp and send out a weekly church letter to them, being sure to help introduce them to church members. Like, this week we're featuring Tony, our deacon. Tony has been here for 20 years and loves Thai food. Well, what are you doing with that? Everyone at the church knows Tony, right? Yeah, but the people online don't. And you need to start paying attention to the language your church uses. If someone gets up to the mic and says, "Well, I was at Hale's house yesterday, and then we went to the diner to eat." Okay, well, if I'm watching from Singapore, I don't know who Hale is, and I don't know what the diner is, okay? If your online audience really is a primary audience, then your language needs to reflect that. So that guy at the mic could say something like, "I went to visit Hale, our treasurer, because we're old friends." That's far more informative to someone who doesn't know who you all are talking about. And it's important, even though it's going to feel a little awkward, because the guy at the mic is looking at a bunch of people who know who Hal is, right? but we got to keep that audience in mind. We need to keep them in the loop as well. Did your church just decide to build a playground? Cool. Let your online audience know, even if, they're probably never going to use this playground. Treat them like the friends of your church you want them to be. Number 6, collaborate. Your worship live stream is your hub. It's probably the point in your week where you know everyone's going to be there at that particular time. So use that time to announce events for your online audience. Hey guys, Pastor's going to be on Clubhouse on Monday. Looking forward to seeing you there. Stefan is going to do a healthy cooking class on Tuesday on Instagram, so I hope to see you there as well. And on Wednesday, of course, we have our weekly Zoom prayer meeting. What are you doing with this? You're making it as easy as possible for people online to join you. And you know what? Stefan can do his cooking class from the church kitchen. People can still come to the physical church building for a prayer meeting. Okay, you're not ignoring your local congregation. You're just making it a little bit easier, making a little effort to add your online congregation as well. But have points during the week for your online congregation to join you other than on Sabbath, okay? And that leads me to the last point. Number 7, diversify. I'm sure your pastor is super charming and intelligent and wonderful in every way, but if you really want to build a digital church, it can't be built on your pastor alone. Pastors come and go, especially Adventist pastors. So your pastor may be able to really bring people in at first, but you will not have succeeded in building a digital church and in connecting people online until those people connect with other members of your church. Hey, there's Stefan. I see him on camera. I made your baked potato recipe last week, man, and it was amazing. Okay? The pastor tends to present a more polished view of your church. But the best parts of church are the quirky, weird, fun, devoted members. Let your online audience meet those members, quirks and all, even if they're not as polished as your pastor. Now, I know that this seems hard. Most of your members are probably not enthusiastic tech users. They probably don't want to learn new skills. And this is why I think it's important to explain to churches that ministry is going to increasingly happen online. So we have to, right? And I don't know about you, but I'm excited. This is going to be so much fun. Yeah, some churches are going to get numerically smaller. Giving may go down, but this is going to force us to be more creative and prayerful than we have been in a long time. And I think that's going to make churches really interesting in the future. You don't need a big budget to do this stuff, guys. Facebook is free, Instagram is free, WhatsApp is free, Discord is free. Sure, big budgets can do some cool stuff. Bigger teams can do some cool stuff. But what matters, I think, the most is intentionality. Maybe your church doesn't have the world's best graphic designer, fine. But I think if you're genuinely trying to build community and love people and include people in your church life, I think that's going to shine through. That's all the time I have today. I'll be back next week with a video for your tech team as we navigate this new world together. If you have any other tips in building a digital church or in envisioning the future of the digital church, be sure to leave them in the comments below. And of course, hit subscribe. Until then, grace and peace be with you. Remember, the best is yet to come.